You're listening to Midlife Side Quest, the over-the-hill gaming podcast. Here's your host, John Wall.
Welcome to Midlife Side Quest, episode 25. Holy cow, 25 episodes. Look at that. And thank you so much for tuning in. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the documentary series Double Fine PsychOdyssey. If you haven't yet subscribed to the show, I would really love it if you'd take a moment to do so. And I would love to hear your feedback, which you can do by leaving a review wherever you're listening to today's episode. And you can also find us on Twitter and also now on Facebook, where we go by Midlife SQ. So I spent the weekend up at my in-laws recently. It's a few hours north of the cities. It's sitting right on a lake. Very quiet, very peaceful. And while we were up there, Charlie, who is 15 years old now, asked if he could go out driving. His mom learned to drive up there at the cabin. The roads are usually pretty empty and there aren't too many people around, so it's a good place to get in some practice. So my wife took him out for a bit. They went driving around, came back about 20 minutes later, all in one piece. It was good. The next day, he decided he wanted me to take him out driving. And something you probably don't know about me is that I have anxiety, and there are a couple of things that really trigger that anxiety. One of them is driving. I think it stems from my not getting a driver's license until I was into my 20s. And also I have a terrible sense of direction. I do fine, like driving around town and going to work and back and all that. But when I don't know where I'm at or where I'm going, or, getting on and off really busy freeways, I struggle with that. Driving around in LA was a real treat. So the thought of getting in the passenger seat with my kid, who has only driven a couple of times, it kind of filled me with dread. And it didn't help that this is winter in Minnesota. It had snowed recently and the roads were a little bit slick. But I'm also a dad, so this comes with the job. It's gonna happen eventually, and he has enough to deal with on his own without his dad having a panic attack about him getting behind the wheel. So I sucked it up, and we got in the car, and with my fists and my butt cheeks clenched, we went for a drive. We drove around for about 15 minutes or so, and you know what? He did just fine. He's obviously, learning. He's very new to this, so we need to work on things like, turning and all that, but he did just fine, and nobody died. We got back to the house. I told him he did a great job. And then I sat down and had a bourbon until my knees stopped shaking. I like to think that I am fairly knowledgeable about the video game industry. I've been playing games for 4 decades. I've been following the industry pretty closely for, at least 3 of those. And I've been a content creator for coming up on a decade with trips to E3 and developer interviews during that time. So with that said, I've never in my life gotten such an incredible and in-depth look at the process of making a video game as I did while watching the documentary series Double Fine PsychOdyssey from the filmmakers at Two Player Productions. This was filmed over 7 years during the development of Psychonauts 2. This 32 episode, 22-hour series is a raw and honest look at the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making a video game. And it is not just all fun and games. The series begins as the house that Tim Schafer built is coming off of the release of Broken Age, which itself was documented in Double Fine Adventures. And the team decides to follow that up with a sequel to one of their most ambitious and popular games, Psychonauts. As the early design work begins, we hear stories of what a tough development that was, with heavy crunch and the entire team of level designers even being fired at one point. They are determined to not let history repeat itself and to learn from past mistakes. But this development will be filled with its own set of challenges, from crowdfunding for the first time to publisher drama, managerial challenges, staff turnover, worries over crunch again, studio acquisition, and to top it all off, a global pandemic right as they're trying to wrap up the game. In the early episodes and the early months of development, it was super interesting to see the process of how a game goes from some vague ideas to a general concept and then to early design. From the earliest brainstorming sessions about what the game should be to bringing in concept artists from the original game to ensure that the new game retains that signature Psychonauts look and feel. I've seen plenty of behind-the-scenes extras before that show the development process, but never from those early days of trying to figure out what exactly they want this game to be. And some of those ideas make it through to the final product, and a lot of them don't. Even entire levels that go through months and months of development and tweaking aren't immune from getting completely axed at some point. One of the things that struck me the most about this behind-the-scenes look is how open they are about everything. They hired this documentary team to record the process, every single step of it. And there are moments in here that some game developers would probably not want to be seen by the public, but they don't shy away from it here, and they don't try to sugarcoat anything. Game development is hard as hell, and for as much as people maybe think of Double Fine as this wonderful, harmonious place to create games, there are some really tough moments in here that show that even the best studios can really struggle at times. One such moment involves a senior programmer who had been with the company since almost the very beginning, but as the project evolves, it's obvious that she is unhappy with how things are going and feels that she's not being heard by the new creative director who they have brought on board to lead this game. Someone who I really think had his heart in the right place, but seemed to maybe struggle with making the team feel like their contributions were appreciated or that they could come to him with ideas and concerns. The programmer ends up leaving Double Fine, as do many more people over the course of the game's development. And it's tough to see someone go out that way and leave a place that clearly meant a lot to them. Another scene involves crunch. Now, Double Fine infamously crunched hard during the development of the first game, like not going home at night and sleeping under your desk. They have vowed to be better, but emotions got high when deadlines are looming and some people were staying late. And it all comes to a head during a company meeting when one of the new programmers calls them out for buying dinner for the office for folks who have stayed that late, and seeing it as a way of telling people that they should be putting in those extra hours. This leads to a very tense back and forth between the old timers who've experienced real awful crunch on previous games and the new generation of developers who are very weary of any kind of crunch culture. Tears are shed, and the management team doesn't necessarily handle everything really great. And it shows the way in which people's opinion on crunch and that sort of thing has really changed, particularly in just the last several years. It's not all rough, though. In between those hardships, there are moments of great joy and camaraderie, and you can tell how much this team cares about one another. They spend a considerable amount of time together, after all, and we see them celebrating the highs together and leaning on each other during the lows. They all love what they do and are trying their best to create something that the world is going to love too, and I think they succeeded. Psychonauts 2 is an incredible game. I loved it, and seeing how it all comes together over years and years really gave me a new appreciation for the people behind the scenes. Not just the studio heads, but those artists and programmers and level designers who don't get the spotlight, but they work their butts off to create art for us. Game development is hard, and a lot of things are going to go wrong along the way to create a game. And for a good long time, the game is going to kind of be a hot mess until all of a sudden it starts to come together. Consumers can have this picture in their mind of how the development process works. And, they can be known to get hostile when games get delayed or have issues. And I think seeing the entire process like this is a really good thing for people to see and to shine light on the truth of the process and how games, don't just happen. They are created by a group of individuals who are all trying their best, despite many challenges, to make something that will make people happy. I think if you have an interest in the games industry or have ever been curious as to, how the sausage is made, this documentary is an absolute must-see and gets my highest recommendation. So my friends at the Nintendo Dads sent me over something really cool last week as a prize for donating to their Extra Life campaign. It's called the Couch Console, and it's this cool little caddy to stash all of your snacks and things in while you're chilling out and gaming at the end of the night. It features 3 compartments. One larger one, which you can fill with chips or popcorn or whatever, or you can put a lid on that and set your remotes or your phone on. And actually that lid is reversible, and on the other side it's got like a cushioned little arm rest, a little wrist rest. And then there are 2 smaller compartments, one which I found makes a good cup for salsa, and another which has a gyroscopic cup holder, meaning that it won't spill if you bump it or tilt things. And actually thinking about it right now, that other cup would be kind of good for cereal. It also has a little USB port and a cable that you can attach a battery to. The battery doesn't come with it, but if you've got one, you can plug that in if you want it to serve as a little hub to charge your phone or whatever. Just don't drop your iPhone in the case, though. It's really cool little gadget that has gotten actually a lot of use by myself and my kids since we got it. If you like to have a drink and some munchies while you game or you're watching a movie, it's definitely worth checking out the couch console. And thanks to the guys at Nintendo Dads for hooking me up. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife Side Quest. You can catch new episodes every single Thursday morning wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, if you enjoy the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. And you can follow the show on Twitter and now on Facebook, where we go by Midlife SQ. So until next time, be well and keep playing.